Racing, having trailed at half-time, have burst into life in the second half here at the La Défense Arena, and they are lows bound in a week's time to take on Ronan O'Gara's La Rochelle. That's a game we'll see live here on Virgin Media 2 next Sunday afternoon. Sale certainly made a contest of it, but they just didn't have the firepower to cope in the second half. Full time in Paris, it's finished Racing 92, 41, Sale Sharks 22.
Yeah, thanks to David Allen. So after being behind by 4 at half-time, in the end, Racing come good and do so in fine fashion as well. As Dave said, semi-final lineups, very intriguing. We will have Racing against La Rochelle and Leinster against Toulouse next weekend as well. So we were worried-ish, but I wouldn't say especially worried about Racing at half-time, and so it proved in the second half.
More focused. I thought we saw the difference between a team having real quality individuals and those individuals getting the opportunity to express themselves, and a Sale team that were diligent and dogged and were relatively organised, but ran out of gas really pretty early in the second half. We also saw a couple of sensational moments, and that Teddy Thomas try, I cannot tell you how good that was. I'm looking forward to analysing it a bit. Yeah,
and we should note as well for the viewer, we will do later on, as Finn Russell booted the ball down pitch. As the ball was in the air, Rob Kearney said, why did he kick it?
He's the only player in the world, I think, who would have hit that in a half volley instead of catching it. And, that's why he's box office, isn't it? He caught it perfectly on the volley. Should have been on a soccer field.
Why didn't you try that even once in all those years?
You know me, I was a very conservative player, Joe. Very conservative.
How good are Racing then?
They are. It's hard to know because I think I just said to Rob just before he came back on there, saying that a team that would punish mistakes would punish this Racing team because they make lots of mistakes. So once you have that, once they let another team in. And things get loose. If you've got a team that can exploit that, then that's a big risk to what they do. But they also have undoubted quality. We talked before the game about being risk averse or not being risk averse. These guys didn't mind if the ball goes down because they're trying offloads, they're trying volleys, they're trying every single sort of skill in the book. And the thing is, they have them. But you would think that a very controlled, disciplined, physically aggressive team with people who know what they're doing, I think that becomes much more challenging for them.
Quite striking, though, about this semi-final lineup. In Racing and in La Rochelle, and Ronan O'Gara preaches keeping the ball alive and taking some risks. In Leinster, increasingly, as you both said pre-game, and in Toulouse, we don't have risk-averse sides in this semi-final. So that's definitely coming out on top in Europe.
Yeah, it has, and there's been a bit of an evolution of the game over the course of the last 12 or 18 months, and nothing more stark contrast than Leicester yesterday. And they're leading the Premiership by kicking the leather off the ball, not taking risks, not playing any sort of rugby inside their own half, just relying on a decent set piece and putting the opposition under pressure on their own side of the field. So, I think it's good for rugby that we have these types of teams in the semi-finals, and they probably are the 4 best teams in the competition. I think Racing are probably the weakest of the 4 teams. They're just a little bit too loose, and if they played like they did in the first 40 minutes against any of the other 3 semi-finalists, I think the game could have been over at half-time.
This sort of higher risk play is the rugby zeitgeist at the moment, and there's been quite a significant change. Rob said over the last 18 months, and look at the trajectory of Ireland. We've seen how they've changed, but I think particularly there was almost a line in the sand after the Lions tour, and the type of rugby we saw there, the way that was refereed, I think how the referees were instructed to play the game. And I referee the game after that, but more so I think there was a lot of smart coaches started to see that there was another way to play the game. And yes, that more conservative play is it's lower risk and you can get to a certain level with it, but if you really embrace that higher skill level game, then there you'll get the rewards. And all the teams that are in the top in the last 4 are there, and there will be ball on the ground. You know, that's part of it. It's not a problem, and La Rochelle are a great example of that. Ronan empowers their players to take individual opportunities and risk and get the rewards from that.